Hi and welcome to this on-maths prediction for the OCR Maths GCSE Paper 2 Foundation Tier, November 2020. Enjoy! Hi and welcome to this Paper 2 prediction from onmaths.com. If you haven't done the Paper 1, then you won't know that you can go and this link here and it will take you straight through to onmaths.com where you can try this paper out completely for free, and you can even sign up for free. It will save your scores and all that stuff. You can do that before you even watch this video, or what some people do is they like just to watch the video, understand how to do the questions and then test themselves afterwards. So what is the prediction? Well, prediction basically is our estimation of what comes up every single time with this exam board, what hasn't come up in ages and is long overdue to come up, and it's basically a guess. And it's an educated guess, but it is a guess, and that's why I say in every video, don't just do this and rely on it 100%. There will be a lot of topics that come up in this paper, but there also will be new topics that don't come up. So make sure you do all your revision, whether that's with onmaths.com or mathseffect.co.uk or a different website or a different revision guide or whatever it is. Make sure you do the work first. Otherwise, let's get started.
So this question asks us to write the smallest odd number. Now there's two instructions there. We need to make the smallest number from the digits and it needs to be odd. So to make the smallest number, we want to use the smallest digits on the left hand side of the number and the largest digits on the right hand side of the number. Okay. We also need the last number to be odd. Now to make a number odd, the last number needs to be 1, 3, 5, 7 or 9. Okay, so looking at the largest numbers, the largest number is 6, so we want to end on a 6. However, 6 is an even number. Therefore, if we end on a 6, it will be an even number. So we've got to look at the largest odd number, which is the 5. So the 5 is going to go here to make the number odd. Then we need to use up that 6 next. And then the next largest number is the 4, and then 3. So my answer is 3,465. Now always just check to see whether we've answered the question. It says it wants the smallest odd number. Well, that's an odd number, and I can't think of a way of swapping those digits to make it any smaller because we've used the smallest numbers we can on the left hand side and the biggest on the right hand side.
So in this question we're asked what name this polygon has. Now a polygon is just a shape that has an amount of sides, poly meaning many. So we've got to count the sides first. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And a 7-sided shape is called a heptagon. Now many students know that it's a septagon. Heptagon is a better answer. Don't ask me why. Next it says how many sides does a hexagon have. Now I always got pentagon and hexagon mixed up until someone told me that the x in hexagon is the x in 6. So from then on I know that a pentagon has 5 sides and a hexagon has 6. So a hexagon has 6 sides. It's really important that you know all the names of the shapes up until a 10-sided shape. So to convert a percentage into a fraction, you just need to remember that percent means per 100. So that percentage sign there just means per 100. So it's 30 per 100 or 30 over 100. Then we need to simplify that. So we're going to divide top and bottom by 10 and we get 3 over 10. So the simplest version is 3 over 10. Now for this next question, we need to convert these all into the same thing. By far the easiest thing to convert them all into is percentages. So we don't need to do anything with C. For A, all you need to do is times it by 100. Any decimal, you just times by 100, it makes it a percentage. So that's 49%. Now with this one, we make it so that the bottom is 100. So what I'm going to do is times top and bottom by 20. And then as I said in the question A,
percent just means per 100, so that's just 20%. And the last one is just 71%, it's already in percentage. Now you can clearly see here that the 20% is the smallest, 71% is the largest. However, we need to work out which way around it wants it. Where it says ascending order, ascending means going from smallest to biggest. A plane ascends when it takes off, and then descends when it starts coming down to land. So it's really important that you write in the numbers in the question rather than the ones that we wrote. So we're going to start with the smallest, which is 20%, which was 1/5. So don't write 20%. Then 49%, which is 0.49. And then finally 71%.
So for this question we're asked to find the percentage of the shape that's shaded. So there are 4 sections in total and 2 of them are shaded. So as a fraction that would be 2/4. Well, we can halve top and bottom, so it's a half. And you can see there that half of that's shaded. So what is half as a percentage? Well, a whole as a percentage is 100%. So a half as a percentage is 50%. And if you didn't know that, you need to just practice knowing the main percentages. A tenth is 10%, a hundredth is 1%, and a quarter is 25%. Okay, the next question says what fraction is shaded. So we need to know 2 things. First of all, how many squares are shaded. So 1, 2, 3. So it'd be 3 over the total amount of squares. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squares. So the fraction is 3/8. For the next question, it says shade in a fifth of this shape. Well, there's 10 squares altogether, and we want to shade a fifth. So we need to find a fifth of 10. In other words, what's a fifth times 10? When you times something by a fraction, just divide it by the bottom of the fraction. So another way of writing that is 10 divided by 5, which is 2. A different way of thinking about this question is if you cut this shape up into 5 equal sections, those sections, the green sections, become a fifth. So if we want to shade 1/5, we just want to shade in one of those sections. And actually that's the amount of squares that our calculation just worked out. So it should be 2 squares. Now, it doesn't have to be the 2 squares that I've shaded. As long as you've shaded in 2 squares, then you've answered the question. And the last question says, write down the fractions there that are equivalent to a quarter. Well, a nice easy way of starting this question off is just write down things that are equivalent to a quarter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to times top and bottom of this fraction by 2. So 2/8. So I've times them by 2. Then I'm going to times them by 3. So it would be 3/12. Then I'm going to times them both by 4, and I'm just looking at this original fraction here. I'm going to times them both by 4, so it would be 4/16. Then times them both by 5, 5/20. Now all those fractions are equivalent, which means the same as a quarter. So let's have a look at our list. Well, we've got 2/8 there, so it's that one, and we've got 5/20 there. So my answer is going to be fraction B and fraction C. So for the first question, when you're adding letters together, the answer will be a number and then that letter. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to be 5B. The most common wrong answer is B to the power of 5. Now that's wrong because that only happens when you times them together, when you multiply them together. So it's going to be 5B for the first one. Next one is 10 lots of F, and we're taking away 3 lots of the F. Well, how many F have we got left over? Well, 10 lots of it and take away 3 lots of it means we've got 7 lots of it left. When you're simplifying one like this, in algebra we just don't use the times sign, so this is quite a nice easy question, 10AB.
Now the last one is like terms, so we've got 5x here and we're adding 5x, and we've got a 3y here and we're taking away a y. So when you add the 5x to the 5x you get 10x, and when you've got 3y and you're taking away y, which is short for 1y, so we've got 3 y's, taking away 1y, we're left with 2y. Now you can't simplify that any further because they are not like terms. You can times them, but you can't add or subtract them. So we're asked to find 35% of 260. So we know 100% is 260. So I'm going to first of all find 10. And to do that I'm going to just divide the 100 by 10 and the 260 by 10. So 10% would be 260 divided by 10, which is 26. I'm then going to work out 5%, because I'll need 35, so I need to find that 5. And all I'm going to do is just halve the 10% to get 5%. So half of 26 is 13. Now 30%, I'm then going to have to get that 10% and times it by 3. So I'm going to get that 10% and I'm going to times that by 3. And I can just do it over here. 30. I want 26 times by 3. So 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times 2 is 6, plus the 1 is 7. So that's going to be 78. And if you've got a different way of multiplying using maybe the grid method, that's absolutely fine. So I can quickly show the grid method here. So 26 would be 20 and 6 times 3, which would be 60, 18, and then 60 plus the 18 is also 78. Okay, so to get 35, we need to add the 5 and the 30 together. So we need to add this amount and this amount, and that would give us 35%. So we need to do 13 plus 78. So 3 plus 8 is 11, so 1 and then 1 down here, 7, 8, 9, so it'd be 91. So our answer is going to be 91. Now, I know it might seem a bit obvious, but it's really important in this question that we realise that 1 hour is 60 minutes. Now, the reason for that is it's really easy to accidentally think that there's 100 minutes in an hour. So 4 hours will be 4 times as much. 4 times 6 is 24 with a 0. Because it's 60, not 6. Now, a quarter of an hour, well, if you think about what half an hour is 30 minutes. And so a quarter of an hour is 15 minutes. So because this is 4 and a quarter hours, it's going to be 240 minutes plus another 15 minutes. So the answer is going to be 255 minutes. Okay, so this question gives us a set of instructions to create a sequence, and it asks us to write the first 3 terms in the sequence. Now it says it starts at 20, so that's nice and easy, and it says the term-to-term rule is add 5. So we're going to add 5 to get the next one, and we're going to add 5 to get the last one. So each time we're adding 5. And that's it. So we're given a basic formula to work out how long this turkey is going to take to cook. It says that the cooking time, so we can just call that time, is the weight, which it says is a 3 kilogram turkey, and just check that the units are the same, which they are. So it's the 3 times 30, then add 90. 3 times 30 is 90. 90 plus 90 is 180. Now just double check that it wants it in minutes. Sometimes it'll ask for it in hours. Well, it says it wants it in minutes, so 180. Okay, so a few things we need to realise with this question. First of all, what does product mean? Product just means times. It means if you times them together, that's the answer, right? And we're looking for more than 2. We'll come back to that later. So we're first of all going to do a sample space diagram for this. So we've got the numbers from spinner 2 up here and the numbers from spinner 1 here. But instead of like writing down the combinations, we're just going to write down the answers to the product. So we're going to do 1 times 0, 0. In fact, anything times 0 is 0. Then we're going to do 1 times 1, 1 times 2, 1 times 3, 1 times 4. 2 times 1, 2 times 2, 2 times 3, 2 times 4, and 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3, and 3 times 4. So these are all our possible answers when we spin these 2 spinners. And what I'm going to do is try and show all the ones that are more than 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 of them are more than 2. So 9 will be on the top of my fraction when I show the probability. And what we need to do is put that over the total amount, including the 9 we circled. So there are in total, when we can count them, or I notice it's a 4 by 4 grid, so it's going to be 16. I can't cancel that. Now be careful, really common mistake is these 2. Because it says more than 2, those don't count. So it has to be 3, 4, 5 onwards. Really other common mistake is this bottom number here. A lot of students would put that as, was it 5, is it? No, 7. They put it as 7 because it's all the remaining numbers. No, that's bottom number is always the total amount of numbers. Okay, so this seems quite a complicated question, but it's one of those questions that if you break down, each step is a little bit easier than you think. So the first thing I would do is I would work out how much money that Shafi's making. So she's charging £15 a ticket and she sells 100 tickets. So it's going to be 100 times 15, which is going to be 15 with 2 zeros. So that's the amount of money she's making. Now the costs are a little bit more complicated to work out. So the entrance fee is going to be £11 per person. So we do 11 times 15. Oh, not 15. 11 times 100 because she sells 100 tickets, which is 11 with 2 zeros. All the other costs are just one-off costs. So that's the total cost. Those aren't per person. So other costs are going to be 200 plus 40 plus 40, which is going to equal 280. So we're going to work out the total costs by doing 1,100 plus 280. And you can do any of these using any method you feel comfortable with, and you don't necessarily have to for this one. So the total costs are 1,380, and she's made £1,500. So she's donating all the extra money to the school fund. So to work out how much she's donating, and be really explicit with what you're working out. So the donation is the money coming in, take away money going out. And again, you can use any method you feel happy with, and obviously if this is on the calculator you just type it into the calculator. So we 0 take away 0 is 0, can't do the next one, so I'm going to take 1 from the 5. So 10 take away 8 is 2, 4 take away 3 is 1, and then 1 take away 1 is 0. So that's going to be £120. So with this question, just make sure you're writing down what you're working out, and so the examiner can easily give you the marks. Really, I could probably, if I had space, put this working out just under here so that the examiner can follow what I'm doing when, and same with this one. This could go where I was actually using it, so it could go down there in my working out, and it might make it a bit easier. So we're told 1 kilogram of cheese costs £7.70. How much would 600 grams cost? Well, first of all, I'm going to have weight, mass, and price. And I'm just going to sort of split them down the middle. So the weight, well, 1 kilogram is not going to help us because this one's in grams. So I'm going to convert that to grams. So it's 1,000 grams. And I'm going to convert this into pence. So 770 pence. Okay, so I need to get to 600 grams. And so first of all, if I've got a calculator, I can do this a lot easier. But without a calculator, let's try. Well, I can first of all divide this by 10 to get it so that it's 100. So that's 100 grams. And that would be 77. And then what I can do is I can times these by 6 to get 600. Okay, so if you've got a calculator, you can just type it in, but let's assume that you don't for this question. So we've got 77 times 6. 6 times 7 is 42. Add a 0. 6 times 7 is 42. Add them together. Probably don't need to do this, but anyway, I'll do it anyway. 264. So it's 462 pence, but in pounds it would be £4.62. Last thing, just check it makes sense. Well, we've got just over half, so therefore the price is just over half. So it looks good to me. Okay, so we have water and we have orange squash, and we need 3 parts water to 2 parts orange squash. It seems quite rich drink to me, but anyway. And it says find out how much water is needed to dilute 80 centilitres of orange squash. So the first thing you need to think about is how do you get from 2 to 80? Well, I could do 80 divided by 2, but I think we just know it's times 40. So whatever you do to that side, you have to do to this side. So we're going to have to times that by 40 as well. So we're going to do 3 times 40. I know 3 times 4 is 12. So therefore that's going to be 120. So it's going to need 120 centilitres of water to dilute the 80 centilitres of orange juice. With two-way tables, we've got to use the totals to work out the missing numbers. So a nice place to start is this box here. If we have a look, we've got a total of 46 people with brown eyes. 23 of them are female. So all you need to do is 46 and take away the 23, and that leaves 23 left over. Now let's have a look at a nice easy one. Right, green eyes, that's a nice easy one there. We've got 48 in total, and 27 females with green eyes. So we want to do 48, take away 27, and that leaves us with 21. Now if we have a look at this one, we have 23 females 23 males with brown eyes, 18 males with blue eyes, and 21 males with green eyes. And we assume that there weren't any others because they're not in the table. So we add those together and that gives us 62 in total. And let's have a look at this one maybe. So we've got 62 females altogether, and we've got 27 of them have green eyes and 23 of them have brown eyes. So we take the 23 and the 27 away from 62, and that leaves us with 12. And we can just check that. We can do 23 plus 12 plus 27, and it equals 62. So we know that's right. With that one sorted, we can get this one. And if there's 18 males with blue eyes and 12 females with blue eyes, that means there's going to be 30 altogether. Now this total is either the total of these ones or the total of these ones, and they should give you the same number. Don't add the blue and the green ones together, so it's only one of them. So 46 plus 30 plus 48 is 124. And let's just check that. 62 plus 62 is also 124. So don't ever write down 248 because that's not correct. So in total there are 124 people whose eye colour were checked. Alright, so the first place to start on this is to plot the points. So point A is at -3, -2. So along the corridor and up the stairs, well, we're going across -3 on the x-axis, which is this one here, and then we're going to go down 2 on the y-axis. So it's this one here. A really common mistake is to muddle them up. So as long as you remember you're going across and then up or down, obviously if it's negative you go down, then you should be fine. Now it says point A, so I probably should label that as A. And point B is 0, 3. It means we're not going left or right at all. We're just going to stay at 0, but we could go up 3. So it's going to be there. And point C is at 3, -2. So along 3, down 2. Which could be that one there. So that's point C. And it says plot and join these coordinates. So I'm just going to get my ruler and plot and join them. Well, we've plotted them, so we're just going to join them. And there we go, makes a nice little shape there. Now question B says what type of triangle is ABC? So looking at it, it looks like this length here and this length here are exactly the same length. So when we've got a triangle with two sides the same length, it's an isosceles triangle. And try and learn the spelling of isosceles because it does look better when you spell it right. I remember it's ISOSCELES. The SOS is like a Morse code thing to get help, save our souls. So I've always remembered SOS, as in, oh my goodness, I don't know how to spell isosceles. Okay, so in this question we're on a school trip, and it's best to break this question down into bits we need to work out. So it says 4 buses each carry 105 students. So the first thing I need to work out is how many students there are in total. It says 35% of the students are bringing their own lunch, so we don't need to worry too much about those students. A seventh of the students are buying lunch when they get to the theme park, and the question just basically says how many have not made plans for lunch. Okay, so find out how many students have not made plans for lunch. So they're not bringing their own lunch and they're not planning to buy lunch there. So let's do the first thing first, and let's work out the total total amount of students, and show the examiner what you're working out each time. So we're going to do 105 times by 4. You can do that any method you want, but it's going to be 100 times 4 is 400, 5 times 4 is 20, so it's going to be 420 students. So we've got 420 students in total. So next we need to work out how many are bringing their own lunch. So bringing lunch. Okay, so to do this, we're going to work out 10% first, which is going to be 42. Because if 100% is 420, that's how many students we have. 10% is you just divide it by 10. And next we can work out 5%, which is going to be half of that, so it's just going to be 21. Next we need to work out 30% because we need 35%. And all we do is times the 10% by 3. And again, I could do a bit of working out for this. So 42 times by 3. And you can use any method you want. A lot of you probably prefer doing the grid, which is absolutely fine. So 40 and 2 and 3. Obviously, if it's on the calculator paper, you can obviously just use a calculator. But either way, you get 126. So it's going to be 126. Now 35 would be these two added together. So it's going to be these two added together, because 5 plus 30 is 35. So 35% is going to be, and I can do a bit of working out here, so 126 plus 21, or the other way around, 741, so 147. Okay, so 147 students are bringing lunch. Next, so buying at park, So students who are buying at the theme park. It says a seventh of the students. So to find a seventh, all we do is we get the amount of students, which is 420, and we just divide it by 7. And again, you can do this any way you feel comfortable doing, although this is a bit easy because 42 divided by 7 we know is going to be 6. So 7s into 4 don't go, so carry that on. 7s into 42 are 6, 7s into 0 is 0. So it's going to be 60. So students left. So we're going to do the amount of students, which is 420, take away the people who are bringing lunch, plus the people who are buying it in the park. So we need to work out what that is. So it's 147 plus 60. So 7 plus 0 is 7. That's going to be 10. And so that's going to be 207. And finally we need to work that out. So 420 take away 207. So you can't do 0 take away 7, so we nick 1 there. 10 take away 7 is 3. We need to nick 1 there as well. So 11 take away 0. Oh no, I don't need to nick 1 there, do I? So we've just got 1, so that's 1. 4 take away 2 is 2. So the answer is 213. Now it's really important that you set your work out really logically. Any working out you do, try and keep it near where you've done done the calculation, written the calculation down. So I'd probably put this down here if I had like a piece of paper in front of me. Obviously I've moved these around slightly just to make them a bit clearer, so I'm not constantly scrolling. The headings are really helpful. So as an examiner, if you headed all of your working out, it's really easy to spot what you've done and give you credit for it. So just make sure you set out your working out neatly and logically. Okay, so with this question there are quite a few steps we've got to go through. So it gives us some information about the parallelogram, that the area is 3 times the area of the triangle. So it looks like the place to start is the area of the triangle. So we're going to start off with the area of the triangle, and it's really important for these types of questions to be really clear to the examiner what you're trying to work out. So the area is half times the base times the height. So it's half times 8. I was going to write 6 there, but let's keep it in the same order. Let's tidy up that 8 a little bit. Okay, so half of 8 is 4 times 6 is 24, or we could do 8 times 6, which is 48, and then half of that. Either way you get 24. Okay, so we know that the area of this is 24 centimeters squared. And we know that the parallelogram is 3 times the area of the triangle. So the area of parallelogram equals 24, which is the area of the triangle, times by 3. Now I know 25 times 3 is 75, so I'll take away 3 from that, it's 72. So equals 72 centimeters squared. Now, I know that the height of it is 12, and I know to work out the area of a parallelogram, it is just base times height. And I know that the height is 12, and I know the area of it is 72. So I just need to solve this. Quite an easy one to solve, because I'm just going to divide by 12. So the base is going to be 72 divided by 12, which is 6. So it's going to be 6 centimeters. Now we can work that out and just work backwards. So if this x here is 6, 6 times 12 is 72. Then I could do 72 divided by 3, which is 24. And 24 is the area of the triangle. So you kind of know you've got the right answer because you can work backwards with it. So we're asking this question to do a composite bar chart. Now a composite bar chart just means that it's like a comparative bar chart where the bars are next to each other, but on a composite bar chart they're just all in one bar. So we're going to have multiple pieces of data. So if we have a look at the table, we've got males and females. So we need a way of telling them apart, and the way of doing that is just to add a key. So my key is going to be blank for males and shaded in for females. And it's really important that you add a key to this so people can tell your bars apart. Okay, so we're going to start off by working out what the scale is. It seems to be going up in 2s. And you don't need to write on what the scale is for each individual mark, but I'm doing it to make it easier to show. So the first one, the males goes up to 12. So let's try and line this up. So they go up to 12 in 1983. And the females go up 2. So I'm going to add another 2 on, which is 1 square. And then I'm going to shade that 1 extra 1 in. And it's that simple. So we're going to do that, and I'm going to cross those out because I've done those. And I'm going to do that for 1984. So we're going to go up to 8 for the males. And then we're going to go up another 4, which is 2 squares for the females. Cross those out now. And finally, we could go up to 4 for the males. And we could go up 12. So that would be 6 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we can check this a little bit by adding these together. That should go up to 14, 12 plus 2, which it does. That should go up to 12, which it does. And this should go up to 16 by adding 4 and 12 together, which it does on our table. So we need to make sure that we have the key, and we need to make sure that a composite bar chart, there's one on top of the other. When solving, always just write out the question and put down lines either side of the equals. And what we're looking at doing is doing something to both sides so that we get x on its own. So we want to end up with x equals at the bottom. That's when we know we've solved it. So looking at the left hand side, we need to get rid of this 6 here and the takeaway 6 there. Now we must remove the plus or the minus first, as long as it's not trapped in a bracket or a fraction. So we're going to get rid of the minus 6. To do that, we need to do the opposite of it. So we need to add 6 to both sides. So we're going to end up with 6x on the left hand side, because we've got rid of the minus 6. And we're going to add 6 to that to make 60. Now we want to get rid of the 6 before the x. Now that's a times 6. When you put a number next to a letter, it's a times. So to get rid of it, we need to divide 6. So we're going to end up with x on the left hand side, and 60 divided by 6 is 10. So the answer is x equals 10. Didn't need that much room in the end, and that's it. Okay, so this question's about an adult and 2 children. So we've got David Smith and 2 children. So there's 1 adult and 2 children. But the prices shown are not quite right, because there's a discount. There's a 5th off adult price and 30% off the child price. So let's work out the adult price first. So a 5th off. Well, first of all, let's work out a 5th of £70. So to work out a 5th, you can just divide 70 by 5. Now I know that 10 5s are 50 and 4 5s are 20, so that's going to be 14. So that's going to be £14 he gets off. So therefore the price will be the £70 take away the £14. So 70 take away 10 is 60, take away 4 is 56. So he's going to pay £56 himself. Let's do the child price. Okay, so it's 30% off the child price. So we want to do 30% of £37. Okay, let's do the equals down here to give us some room. Well, I know that 10% is going to be £3.70, and then I need to times that by 3. Okay, so I could just times it by 3. Let's have a think. I could do 370. I could do it in pence, and then just times that by 3. So 370, and then I can just do times 3. So I can do a little grid. And if this is on the calculator, then obviously you just type it into the calculator. And obviously that's going to be 0, so we don't need that one. So it's 900. That's 21 with a 0. So 900 plus 21, 210 even, 0, 1, and then 11. So that's going to be £11.10. And so we want to work out the price. So it's going to be £37, take away £11.10. So if you take away 10, it's 27, take away 1 is 26, take away 10 is £25.90. Now that's for one child, so that's one child. So if I want 2 children, I want to do £25.90 times 2. Now I know 25 times 2 is 50, 90 times 2 is £1.80, so that's going to be £51.80. Okay, I'll move down a bit, and let's do the total. So the total is going to be the adult price, which is this one here, plus the 2 children price, which is that one there. So I want to do 56 plus £51.80. And again, if you've got a calculator, you can just type it in, but let's do the column method. £1.80, and then people like putting the zeros in. So that's going to be 0, 8, 7, 10. So that's going to be £107.80. So it's £107.80. Finished.
When you're asked to describe the relationship between 2 things on a scatter graph, the sentence you need to write is, as this one increases, this one either increases or decreases. So as time of day increases, test marks, and because they're going up, it's a positive correlation, test marks increase. So there's a difference between describing the type of correlation or writing the type of correlation and describing the relationship. When you're describing the relationship, it's just as the one at the bottom increases, the one up the side either increases or decreases. So it says, using the scatter graph, the examination centre then conclude that time of day leads to positive effect on test scores. Are they correct to make this conclusion? Basically, this is a question about the fact that just because 2 things correlate does not mean that one causes the other. So a sentence like, there may be other factors such as, I don't know, what else? Tiredness, fatigue, tiredness. So try and make sure you give an example as well to support your argument. Okay, so for this question, the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to convert these into easier numbers to deal with. So I'm going to times this left-hand one by 10 and times this right-hand one by 10. So we actually end up with whole numbers, which are much easier to multiply. I've just got to remember to turn them back at the end, to deal with that at the end. So there's multiple ways you can multiply these together. You can use the grid or column, or whatever method you feel comfortable using. So let's put these in a column. But again, there's no additional marks if you do one way or the other. Okay, so 5 times 3 is 15, carry the 1, 5 times 1 is 5, add the 1 is 6, 5 times 7 is 35, so it'll be 35. Now the next thing we're doing is 40 times 3, so what we're going to do is just add a 0 here, and then we can just think of it as a 4, so 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times 1 is 4, add the 1 is 5, and 4 times 7 is 28. Then we're going to add going downwards, so 5, 6 times 2 is 8, 5 times 5 is 10, so it would be 8 plus 3, which is 11, plus the 1 is 12, and then 2 plus the 1 we carried, which is 3. So this is going to equal 32,085, but the problem is we times two numbers by 10, so we need to undo that. And we do that, undo it by dividing it by 10 and then dividing it by 10 again. So in total we've divided it by 100. So it's going to be 32 with a 0 and then 0.85. So the answer is 320.85. And normally you can just check to see roughly whether that's right. So 71 is roughly 70, 4.5 is, I don't know, roughly 5. So 7 times 5 is 35, so 70 times 5 is 350. Well, 320.85 is not far off 350, so we know we've probably got it right.
Okay, so for this question, we're given a plan of a garden, and we're given a set of instructions of where the tree can be planted. So it says that we can't be any closer than 5 meters, so at least 5 meters away from point C. So that's from here. So let's have a look at that first. Now I'm going to find it very difficult to make this perfect because I can't draw circles or arcs on this. However, I'm going to try my best to show you roughly what it should look like when you do it on paper. So you need a compass for this, and with the compass you would measure out 5 centimeters, which I'm sure that's the scale of this. So you'd measure out whatever it says the scale would be. So for this one, I'm imagining 1 meter is 1 centimeter. And you would draw a kind of quarter circle with your point of your compass at C, and you draw like a quarter circle like that. And that's not too bad, although it looks it looks closer to B than it should be, but it's not too bad. Okay, so that's that first bit sorted. Now it says the tree must be closer to CD, which is this bit here. So it's got to be closer to this than AB, so than this. So what we need to do is ensure that it's closer to the red line than the green line. Now to do this, you need to do a perpendicular bisector of AD or BC. Either one would work. So you get your compass and put it at point A, and you measure out something that's more than 5 centimeters. It doesn't matter how much more. And you do an arc, like a bit of the circle this side and a bit of the circle this side. You do the same at D, and you do a bit of the circle this side and a bit of a circle this side, and then you join those up. So I'm going to join those up and just keep going like so. Now that will give you a perfect equidistant line from AB and CD. Mine's a little bit high, as you can see, but on your one it should look perfect. So it says shade the region the tree can be planted. So it's anywhere, and I might do a different colour for this so it just stands out a little bit. It's anywhere here. Now you always just double check this. So the blue shaded, and on your exam don't bother with a different colour, just use a pencil to shade it in. It says the tree must be at least 5 meters away from point C, which mine is, and the tree must be closer to CD than AB, which mine is. Question A seems like a really complicated question, but it really isn't. If you think about what you know about a rectangle, you know that opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. So if you just write down x plus 1 is the same as 12, and then solve it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take away 1 both sides. Then x equals 11. So we know that x is 11. Let's check that out. It says here x minus 1. Well, what is 11 take away 1? Well, it's 10. And that is the same as that. So we know that x equals 11. And that's it. Question B. Have a think about what you know. You know that all angles in a triangle add up to 180. So we know that if we add y, 2y, and 3y together, it's going to equal 180 degrees. So again, let's just get our lines down so that we can solve it. So 1y plus 2y plus 3y, well, that gives us 6y in total. And then what we need to do is get rid of that times 6 there by dividing 6 both sides. So y equals 180 divided by 6. Well, I know 18 divided by 6 is 3, so I know that's going to be 30. Okay, for Venn diagrams, it's really important to understand the notation. This symbol here means union. It just means or. It means it can be in A, or it can be in B, or it can be in both. So it's any number inside either circle. So I could have 9, 5, 3, 7, 18, or 2. Let's go for 9, but the other 5 would be correct. This symbol here, I always view it as an and. I always put a little line there to say A for and. And it means it needs to be in A and B. It can't just be in A, it can't just be in B, it needs to be in both. And there's 2 numbers that fit that bill, 3 and 7. So I could write 3 or I could write 7. Now this little symbol here, okay, and it's an A with a dash. That dash there means not. So we're looking for numbers that aren't in A and are in B. Well, let's have a look at where not A is. Well, it's anywhere around here. Anywhere around here is not in A. And let's have a look at where B is. So B is anywhere here. So the numbers that overlap both of those are the 18 and the 2. So it's 18 and 2. So there are 2 numbers that fit that bill. So that will go at the top of our fraction. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in total. Now I can simplify that a little bit to make it a quarter. And so my answer to that will be 1 over 4, or a quarter. Okay, there's more than one way to expand and simplify a single bracket. You're essentially doing the same thing, but some of you might want to draw grids or do it in a different way. I always just use smiles and rainbows, so I just create a smile between the 2 and the 3x, and a rainbow between the 2 and the 6, and I put a little time sign there to remind me to times it. Just put a notch through the bracket. That means we're going to times 2 and 3x, and 2 times 3 is 6. And then we've got the x there, and 2 times 6 we're going to times together to make 12. Now we've still got the 4x, so I still need to write that down. Then I'm going to collect like terms. Now the like terms we have is the 6x and the plus 4x. So 6x plus 4x is 10x, and then there's nothing that we can do with the 12, so we just leave that. So it's 10x plus 12. Okay, the next one, there's a double smiles and rainbows. We've got one here, put a little time sign there, and we've got one here. So we'll do the first one first. So 8 times 6x, so we do 8 times 6, which is 48, and then we've got the x. Then we do 8 times positive 2, which is 16, so plus 16. Now that's nice and easy. However, the next one's slightly different. The number outside the brackets is not a 3, it's a minus 3. So when we do minus 3 times positive 4x, we're going to get a negative, because a minus times a positive is a negative. Then we do 3 times 4, which is 12, and then we've got the x as well. Now the rainbow is minus 3 times minus 5. two minuses times together is a plus. 3 times 5 is 15. Then we look for like terms, so we've got the 48x and the minus 12x, and we've got the plus 16 and the plus 15. So we want to do 48 take away 12, or 48x take away 12x. So if we take away 2, it's 6. If we take away 10, it's 36x. Then we want to do 16 plus 15. Well, 15 plus 15 is 30, so that's going to be 31. So the answer is going to be 36x plus 31. Now the most common mistakes are for that n bit there, this bit here. Sometimes students will write down negative 15. So to answer this question, we need to be really familiar with the formula y equals mx plus c. Now y and x will constantly change, but m is what we call the gradient, and c, or plus c, is what we call the y-intercept. Okay, so we need to understand how to use that formula for this question. Now it already tells us that the gradient of the line is 3, so we can fill that in. So it's y equals 3x plus c. Nice and easy. The only thing we don't have is the y-intercept. Now the way of getting the y-intercept is substituting in the values we know. We know when x is 3, y is 17. So what I'm going to do is just put in the values. Put in the values of 3 for x and 17 for y. So it's going to be 17 equals 3 times 3 plus c. And I'm going to put my lines in so that I can solve it. So that's 17 equals 9 plus c. And we're going to take away 9 from both sides. So it's going to be 8 equals c, or just c equals 8. So looking back at this formula we had earlier, we had m but we didn't have c. Well, we now have c, which is 8. So it's y equals 3x plus 8. And you can check that by putting in the values of 3 as x and see whether you get 17. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 8 is 17.
Okay, so we've got quite a lot going on with this question. We've got 3 planks of wood attached by glues and nails, or glue and nails, so we don't need to worry about the joins. But we're looking at the 3 planks of wood. Now, we've got 2 of the lengths. One is 6 meters and the other's 8 meters. But we need to find, obviously, the third length here to be able to continue with this question. So, given the fact it's a right angle triangle, and we know 2 of the length, and we're finding a third length, it's going to be Pythagoras. And Pythagoras says that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now c is the one that has to be the hypotenuse, and to find the hypotenuse we just go opposite the right angle. So we're finding c. A and b don't matter which way around we do it, so I'm going to do 6 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. And I can put my lines down as I normally do. So I always put the lines down that equals. I've just missed that one. So 6 squared is 36, 8 squared is 64, which equals c squared. 36 plus 64 is 100, equals c squared. What I'm going to do is just square root both sides, so c will equal 10. Now when you square root you get a negative as well, but since it's a length it can't be negative, so it's just going to be 10. So c is 10, so we know that that's going to be 10 meters. And it says it takes 90 millilitres of paint per metre of wood to cover it. So what we're going to have to do is work out how much wood we have. So I'm going to say to the examiner wood length or something. Always try and describe to the examiner what you're doing. So we're going to do 6 plus 8 plus 10. So 6 plus 8 is 14 plus 10 is 24. Okay. And then to work out the amount of paint required, so paint required, I need to do 24 because we've got 24 meters of paint times 90 because it's 90 milliliters per meter. So we can do this with the grid or column method doesn't really matter which one. I'll do the column, why not? So 0 for the first one, and then we're going to do 90 times 4, so we need to add a 0. 9 times 4 is 36. 9 times 2 is 18, plus the 3 is 21. And what we could have done is 9 times 24 and just added a 0 onto the end of it. There's loads of different ways of doing these things. So it would be 2,160 millilitres. If you ask this in litres, it would be 2.160 litres, because there's 1,000 millilitres in a litre.
Okay, these are simultaneous equations, and I'm just going to write these out again so I've got a bit more space. So equals 63 and 2x minus 6y equals 0. Okay, so the important thing with simultaneous equations is that you need to either get the coefficient, the number before, the x, or the coefficient of the y the same. Now in this one we already have the coefficient of the y being the same. They're both 6. Yes, one's a positive, one's a negative, but we don't worry about that. And with simultaneous equations we work downwards, which was step 2, but in this one, because the question has been nice, it's going to be step 1. Now we look at the signs for the one with the coefficient that's the same. So the y's have a 6 before it, so we're looking at these signs here. Now if they are the same sign, we subtract. If they are different signs, we add. And it's that simple. Now they are different signs, so we know we are going to add. So we're going to add going downwards. Okay, so 5x plus 2x is 7x, and we're going downwards. 6y plus minus, well the minus wins a plus minus, so 6y minus 6y is 0, and it has to be 0, otherwise we can't answer this question. And 63 plus 0 is just 63. Then we put our lines in to solve it. So 7x equals 63, divide both sides by 7. So we have x equals 9. Okay, now next we're going to pick one of these equations to substitute that 9 into. I'm going to pick the first one, but I could probably easier to pick the second one, doesn't matter. So I'm just going to rewrite this first equation. But instead of 5x, we know it's 5 times 9 plus 6y equals 63. I'm going to put my lines in, and we've got to find out what y is now. So 5 times 9 is 45 plus 6y equals 63. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take away 45 from both sides. So we're going to do 63 take away 45, which is 18. So 6y equals 18. And then we're going to divide by 6 both sides, so y equals 3. And what you can do if you've got some time is just put it into the second equation. So we're going to do 2 times 9, which is 18, and 6 times 3, which is also 18. So 18 take away 18 is 0. So the answer is x equals 9 and y equals 3.
Okay, so this is quite a complicated question because there's 2 ratios and they're talking about slightly different things. We're also given an amount of one of the sides of the ratio, or one of the sides of one of the ratios, and we're asked for the amount of the first side of the ratio. So it's all a little bit complicated. But the way I'd like to start these things off is by just writing down what I know from the question. So we've got football, rugby, and we've got tennis. So football to rugby is 4-3, and rugby to tennis is 6-13. So these 2 ratios here are kind of incompatible at the moment. Got this one here, which is linking the football and the rugby, and we've got this one here which is linking the rugby and the tennis. What I'd like to be able to do is kind of like put the 2 together and make just one ratio. So if you notice from the one I've put around a blue square or blue rectangle round, we've got the rugby as 3 parts of that, but in the green one, the rugby is 6 parts of that. So what if I times both of these by 2? If I times both of them by 2, I get 8 to 6, and that actually matches the other ratio. So what I can then do, because it's the same parts of rugby, I can then say that it's 13 parts tennis. Okay, so all I'm interested in here is matching these two up to make these both the same. So I times the one in blue by 2 and it made it exactly the same. Now it says that 39 students picked tennis, so I need to find some way of getting the tennis to be 39. Well, that's going to be just simply timesing it by 3. And if I times that one by 3, I've got to times this one by 3, and I've got to times this one by 3. So 6 times 3 will be 18. And 8 times 3 will be 24. So we've already answered the question, because if there's 39 tennis, there's going to be 24 football. This is not the easiest question, or ratio question out there, but if you just try and link the two ratios together, then it will start to make sense and it will start to become a lot easier.
Right, whenever you're asked to estimate, basically what that means, it normally is round everything in the question to one significant figure and then work it out. Now there are a few exceptions to that. For instance, if you're asked root 82, the easiest thing to estimate that to is root 81, not root 80, because you know what root 81 is. Root 81 obviously is 9. But mostly it's one significant figure. So we're going to go through everything in the question and just round it to one significant figure. Now, 64, for 64, the line goes after the first digit for significant figures. That 6 will stay as a 6 because that 4 is less than 5. And that 4 will just turn to a 0. For 160, the line will go between the 1 and the 6. That one will round up to a 2 because the next number is 5 or more. And the other numbers will turn to 0. 22 at the bottom, line goes down there, that rounds to 20. 98, line goes down there, the 9 will go up to a 10, and the 8 will turn into a 0. So that question turns into 60 times 200 over 20 times 100. Now there's different ways of doing this. I mean, we can multiply them out. So 6 times 2 is 12 with 3 zeros. 2 times 1 is 2 with 3 zeros. And then we can just cross off the zeros. So 1, 2, 3. And then we're left with 12 divided by 2, which is going to be 6. And when I say cross off the zeros, what I'm doing is dividing top and bottom by 10, and then by 10 again, and then by 10 again. So the answer is 6. There are different ways of doing it. I could have cancelled down at this stage here and divided top and bottom by 20. So that would leave 10 there. And then divide top and bottom by 10. So that would leave 10 there. 60 divided by 10 is going to be 6. Loads of different ways of doing it. Okay, first thing to realise with this question is how you calculate the mean. The mean is the sum of all the values over the amount of the values. Now this actually creates a triangle, just like speed, distance, time triangle. Works in the same way. So we have mean here, we have the sum at the top, and the amount at the bottom. So we normally do the sum divided by the amount, but actually with this question we need to go the other way. And we need to work out the sum or the amount or whatever. Let's have a look. So it says there's 12 boys and 8 girls. So in total there's 20 children. So that's the first thing we need to realise. It says the mean number of coins for the children is 15 and the mean number of coins for the boys is 13. And we've got to work out the mean number of coins for the girls. So we know how many girls there are, which is 8, but we don't know the total amount of coins for the girls. For the boys. Okay, so where do we start? Well, it would be helpful to work out how much coins there are in total. So if I look at the triangle there, we know, so let's write down total children. and try and show my working out as I go. We know that the mean of all the children is 15. So in my triangle, I've got 15 for the mean. We know that there are 20 children in total, and we can work out the sum by timesing those together. So we're going to do 15 times 20. So there's 300 coins altogether. Okay, so now next we're going to work out, well, we're given the boys, so let's work out how many the boys have. So same triangle. We know the mean for the boys is 13, and we know that there are 12 boys. So we'll do 13 times 12, which is 156. So to work out how many girls there are, or to work out the sum of the girls, we're going to do the sum of all the children, which is 300, take away the sum of the boys, which is 156. So we'll do 300 take away 156, which is 144. So we know what the girls add up to, because if the boys add up to 156 and the total children adds up to 300, then the girls must add up to 144. But we're asked for the mean for the girls. So to work out the mean, we just go back to our standard formula we had at the start, which is this one. To work out the mean, it's the sum, which we worked out as 144, over the total, and it says there's 8 girls. So we do 144 divided by 8, which equals 18. So our answer is 18. Okay, this is quite a lengthy question, and again, it's one of those questions, there's multiple ways of doing it, so if you've got a technique that works really well, stick with it. But with this question, and with any fraction questions, you need to make them top heavy first. So that's what I'm going to do with both of these fractions. So 6 1/3. And to make it top heavy, you times by the bottom, and then that answer you add to the top, and then you keep the bottom the same. So 6 times 3 is 18, add to the top is 19, but keep the bottom the same, so it's still over 3. So 4 1/2, we times by the bottom, which would be 8, and then add it to the top, which would be 9. So that equals 9 over 2. So we're going to do 19 over 3 times 9 over 2. So I've written the same thing, 6 1/3 times 4 1/2, but instead of 6 1/3, I've written 19 over 3. Instead of 4 1/2, I've written 9 over 2. Okay, so one thing you can do at this step, which will help us write it in its simplest form, is you can divide anything at the top and anything at the bottom by a number to simplify it. So the 9 at the top and the 3 at the bottom, I can divide them both by 3. So that will leave 3 at the top there, and it will leave 1 at the bottom there. Now, this is really important because if I times these across, I would get a really big number. Now, I'm still going to get a big number, but it's a lot smaller and a lot easier to spot how to simplify at this stage. Okay, and some people call this the bow tie method, because if I draw a nice bow tie over it, it can be any number at the top and any number at the bottom. So it can be down here, or diagonally across, hence the bow tie method. So now instead of doing 19 times 9, I'm doing 19 times 3, and you can do any method you want. I mean, some of you would do 20 times 3 and take away 3, but let's do a little grid. 19 times 3, 30, 3 times 9 is 27, so 30 plus 27 is going to be 57. And now we're doing 1 times 2, which is 2. Now, it says that it wants it as a mixed number, so we need to do that now. So 57 over 2, we need to make that mixed number. So we've got to work out how many 2's there are in 57. Well, I know that 56 divided by 2 is going to be 25 plus 3 is 28. So there's 28 whole ones and 1 remainder. So what you do is you work out how many 2's there are in 57, which is 28, and then any leftover, any remainders at the top, just create the fraction. So the answer is 28.5. Okay, so in this question, you might think that to get the answer to this, you do 40 divided by 5 to get to 8, so you divide that by 5 and you get one machine. The problem is that doesn't make any sense. If 5 machines take 40 minutes, that's almost an hour to make one toy, then what, one machine's going to do it in 8 minutes? It just doesn't make sense. And a question like this that doesn't make sense, if one increases, the other increases, is an inverse proportion question. Now there's an advanced way of doing it where you work out the formula and you do it that way. I'm going to show you a slightly different way that's maybe easier for some people. So if you think about the machines, which is one variable, and the time, which is the other, and we've got 5 machines and it takes 40 minutes, then if we times those together, we get something which I'm going to name machine time. Okay, I've just made that up. So 5 times 40 is 200. Now that 200 there is really special because that 200 must always be the same. The machine time must always be the same. So it says we want to do it in 8 minutes. So I've got to think, right, what times 8 is 200, because machine time will always be the same. So I get my calculator and I'm going to do 200 divided by 8, and it's 25. So let's check that. 25 times 8 is 200, so it works. Now, that is the answer, that we would take 25 machines. Let's just check if it makes sense. So 5 machines take ages. They take 40 minutes to make a toy. Yet 25 machines take only 8 minutes to make a toy, so that makes sense. You'll notice that we've divided that by 5, but we've times this one by 5, and that's the way inverse proportion works. As you divide one of them, you times the other. Okay, there are 2 things you need to know, main things you need to know about kind of advanced number indices. And the first one is that anything to the power of 0 is not 0, but it is 1. And the reason being is, say we had 10 squared divided by 10 squared, that would be, take away the powers, so that would be 10 to the power of 0, because when you divide you take away the powers, but any number divided by itself is 1. So therefore anything to the power of 0 is 1. The second thing you need to remember is if you have a negative power, all you do is you get the number, it's 3 to the power of 1, which is just 3, and put a 1 over it. So if you had 2 to the power of minus 2, that would be 1 over 2 squared, or a quarter. So the negative just results in putting a 1 over it. Now if you have a fraction, and we do it to the power of a negative, you actually just flip the fraction. And that's it. And that's called finding reciprocal. So there we go. If you ask to find the reciprocal of something, you just put a 1 over it if it's an integer, if it's a whole number, or just flip it if it's a fraction.
Well, I hope you found that video useful. If you did, please click like. If you want to see more from us, including the other 2 papers, please click subscribe. We've got loads and loads of stuff on the website on maths.com, which you can go to here, which is completely free. But if you feel you're quite far behind in the maths, or you're not happy with the grades you're getting on maths.com or other mock papers you have, you can try out our premium service, which is mathseffect.co.uk. With mathseffect.co.uk, it's a small monthly fee, and you can do an annual subscription, but if you only want to do it up until November, which makes sense, you can just pay per month. And what it does is it has the whole of the maths GCSE as a journey, and you go through each topic, mastering it one topic at a time. A lot of the students I talk to say, I really don't know where to start. Like, I keep doing Pythagoras and trigonometry over and over again, and I don't really know what else I don't know. This is a service which just covers everything. It makes sure you master and you are an expert in every topic in maths. So it's worth checking out. Loads of people have joined already, and if you haven't joined, go to the website mathseffect.co.uk or click the link in the description. That will take you straight there and you can check it out. Otherwise, thank you very much. If you want to leave a comment down below of anything you want us to cover, because we're desperate to help anyone who's being caught up in this terrible situation, which is not ideal for anyone, but equally, like, we all understand why it's happened. But if I was having to resit or having to sit for the first time in November, I would feel exactly the same as you are probably feeling. So if you want to leave any comments down below, and we might release some videos just discussing options that you have open, or whatever it might be. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.